everyone, and welcome to today's Business Builders Podcast. My name is Tom Borg. I'll be your host, and we have her back, Joyce Weiss. Joyce Weiss is a communication coach. She's the queen of kicking conflict to the curb. She has that hit broadcast, a live broadcast that she has, Kick Conflict to the Curb. So, Joyce, welcome back to our program.
Oh, you have no idea. I'm looking forward to our conversation. It is always deep and fun, Tom Borg.
Thank you, Joyce. And today we've got some very important points to discuss. I know the work that you do is really, really needed in today's workplace with the bullying that goes on. And a lot of people are apprehensive about talking about it, but you're the type of person that can get this concept out on the table, come up with some solutions, and that's why we're here. So what's one of the concepts you wanted to talk about today?
Some of the new things that I've been doing with coaching clients about bullies. And just so the viewers understand where I'm coming from, and then we can go right into some case scenarios that I'd love to share, is that I coach HR professionals and growth-minded individuals and small groups tired of feeling invisible and overlooked and are ready to confidently use their voice without losing their cool. The result is their input is respected and their expertise and experience is in constant demand. So it's feeling invisible with your bully. And this is my segue into the theme that we're going to be talking about. And I'm so glad that you asked me right now to talk about that, because I've got some new stuff that some of your viewers may say, I didn't even think about that.
Nice. So tell us I know some of the issues that are out there today, not just bullying from the boss, but bullying from people back and forth within an office or an organization. What's one of the areas you want to zero in on today?
Well, let's talk about the boss first.
Okay, sure.
Because Lisa came to me because she was absolutely so frustrated. She's an HR professional. She was in a meeting with her boss and her direct reports.
Okay.
Her bully boss totally discounted Lisa and ignored her for the rest of the meeting. Lisa called me and said, Joyce, we've got to have an emergency session. I can't take it anymore. I don't want to quit. What do I do? So we practiced and we found something that she felt comfortable with, but it also was a risk. And she actually said the following to her boss: I don't want to cause friction between us. I do want to have an important conversation. I was caught off guard when I was discounted in front of my direct reports. Lisa, shut up, Tom. I said to her, after you say that, stop and let's see what happened. So what happened is the boss actually said, Lisa, I did that. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And I respect the fact that you took a risk to do this.
Nice.
So in my world, in the kick conflict to the curb world, when I'm coaching individuals or groups, I call this be direct with respect. She used a communication strategy that didn't take her long to use, and she immediately stopped feeling invisible and overlooked. So that's how you can handle a bully boss, a bully boss.
And isn't it true, Joyce, in many situations, the person, as in this case, didn't even realize what they did?
No.
And as a result, Lisa thought she was being bullied, but in essence, it was just a miscommunication, but she needed to clear the air in a professional way and allow her boss to save face.
Yes, and see, you just hit the nail on the head by saying her bully boss was coachable, because she really was coaching. She was telling him, she was being very assertive,
right?
But she was really saying, hey, bully boss, you're doing a sucky job. You better do something about it. And
Mhm.
she was lucky. And for all of us who have bullies in our life,
Mhm.
when we have bullies who are low on the spectrum and they can be coachable and talked to, this stuff works.
Yeah.
When we don't, and I have a really brand new case scenario that happened just last week with one of my clients. What do you do when you try everything, Tom? You're assertive.
Mhm.
You take all
Yeah.
these communication strategies that they learn from us, from their
Mm.
consultants and coaches, and nothing
Mm.
works.
Mm. Right.
Oh, do you want to hear what happened to Brad?
Yeah, let's hear about Brad.
Brad is a longtime client. He had a friend who was always a bully, and
Hmm.
he's tried so many strategies. And every time, Tom, he came back to me and said, Joyce, this stuff works at home with this colleague, but it's not working with my friend. Let's
Hmm.
call him George.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, Brad, let's do something different. Are you willing to do something that sounds insane? He said, I'm willing to do anything. I can't take it anymore. My
Mhm.
my self-confidence has gone down. I can't stand being with him. I said, okay, I want you to think really hard. What is something positive about George?
Hmm.
And Brad said, you've got to be kidding. There's nothing positive. I said, just stop, take a moment. A couple minutes later, he said, okay, he's a good businessman and he's a good family man. I said, okay, I want you to concentrate on that right now. Not the fact that he bullies you and he puts you down and he's sarcastic. Put those aside for a minute. Concentrate on the positives. What lesson are you going to learn from this?
Hmm.
And Brad said, Joyce, I don't know what you're talking about. There's no lesson. I can't stand him. I said, concentrate on the positive. A couple minutes later, he said, could it be that he's not relevant in my life anymore? Could the
Hmm.
lesson be that when I'm with him, and Joyce, I'm going to be with him because we are in a social setting. Could it be that he is not just a bully, but he's a narcissist? So I know I ain't going to ever get through to him. And he thanked me profusely, Tom,
Hmm.
because he finally saw, when you viewers, when you have a narcissist and bully in the same person, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care who you go to, you're not going to get through all
Mm.
those great conversations that are working, hopefully with other people in your life. Nothing's going to work. You've got to change your mindset. And I'm happy to say that Brad reports to me he's seen George, doesn't rub the wrong way, doesn't take things personal. In his mind, he says with a smile, you're irrelevant, you're irrelevant, you don't count in my life anymore. So this new
Mhm.
attitude really did something.
Okay, so what you're saying there then with certain people, the nice guy approach isn't gonna work. You've gotta
Mhm.
take a different mindset and understand that this person isn't going to change and just deal with that person in a different manner. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. You
Okay.
listened very well, Tom
Okay.
Ford,
Thank you. Thank you. So
management
that,
consultant.
and this is important because I think so many people in the workplace today, they do walk around and they don't speak about certain things that are happening at the office. And I
Yes.
think we've all experienced this in some past career that we've had. I know I have, where the owner of the company was a bully and people just ignored the things he said that were not professionally proper. And as a result, people would, as it ended up in that company, people would leave when he would come into the room. If they had
Yes.
something else to do, they would just leave. And it was this white elephant that always was there, that this person's behavior was not acceptable, but people
Mhm.
just put up with it just because they wanted to work there.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
how many people have you had on your magnificent show who tell you that there are so many people leaving their company
Mm-hmm.
because of a bully boss or
Mm-hmm.
a bully board of directors, and no one has had the guts to talk to them? And my question is always, what is it costing you,
Mm, mm,
leaders, when
mhm,
you don't deal with whatever conflict it is? It's costing you people leaving. It costs so much more to train these people.
mhm,
So it's costing you a good night's sleep. And how about
mm,
your ulcer that
mm.
you may be growing
That's
because
right.
you hold it inside? Tell me, I'm not gonna, I promise I'm not asking you to go share, but I'm
Mhm.
just curious. Have you ever had a bully in your life?
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the last places I worked before I went out on my own as a consultant was an organization. The owner was a very domineering type person. We were
Hmm.
all straight commission, and he was intimidating. And I will tell you, that's one of the reasons I left that organization because I didn't want to put up with
There
that
you
type
go.
of behavior. It was intimidating, and it made me feel powerless in many situations.
Absolutely. So there you go. Case in
Hmm.
point. They
Hmm.
lost a really, really good employee and
Hmm.
trainer.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, and I think about some of my clients today, and they are in similar situations where they're working in an environment where, for instance, this business of working from home, which is
Hmm.
it's a big concern out there. People want to do it, and a lot of companies don't want to. They want to bring them back to the office. So what's happening? People are saying, "Well, if I can't come back to the office, if I have to come back to the office, I'm going to just leave. I'll go someplace else."
Yep.
And that's a form of bullying, isn't it? I mean, where people are being forced to come back to the office, and there's no real good reason for it other
Hmm.
than a preference of the way that company's policy leans towards having people present and in the building. So in a way, that
Yes.
that makes people feel intimidated, and the ones that want to leave and can will.
Yes. And this is the time for leadership to
Hmm.
look in the mirror if they're
Yeah.
willing, if they've
Hmm.
got any humility that they know that maybe what we're doing isn't working anymore. It's a new world out there.
That's
And
right.
that's so funny. Wednesday, I
Hmm.
am having a guest on my show, Kick Conflict to the Curb, who
Hmm.
is going to be talking about flexibility is a two-way street.
Mm.
And that's exactly we're going to talk about that. So
Hmm.
you're right. It's the companies that that you may not call them bullies, but when they're got the iron fist, this is how it is. No
Hmm.
flexibility. Now, if they have a bunch of people there that are really the stars, and they're not leaving, and these stars say, "Hey, I can deal with this,"
Hmm.
fine. But if all of a sudden you're losing your important people, no. Mm-mm,
Hmm.
mm-mm.
Yeah. So in a sense, a board of directors, they could be a bully in a sense. Maybe
Yes,
the policies they're trying to enforce, that is a form of bullying in so many ways, without an open mind to discuss some of the potential changes or flexibility, as you're saying that they could incorporate into their way of doing business.
absolutely. I mean, do we have time for one more case
Sure,
scenario?
absolutely. We got
Okay, this
plenty of time.
one, I don't know. This one just and I asked Tiffany, of course, all the names I use aren't their real names.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I said, Tiffany, this is such a unique story. Can I share it? She said, of course, just don't use my name. So it's not her name is not Tiffany for those of you. Hey, I know Tiffany. Tiffany came to me because all of a sudden she was starting to feel really insecure. Tiffany, very assertive. She's very successful. She in her life in the dental field, and all of a sudden, what's happening to me? So we started talking. What are the noises in your head? And the noises. It's not therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy, you go deep, deep, deep.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching is you find out where are you now, what's the gap, where do you want to be. She said, where I am is insecurity. The
Mm-hmm.
voices in my head are my mother. I said, oh really? She said, my mother died years ago, but you know what, it's all of a sudden I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough. That's all coming into my mind. And she said, where's this coming from? We discussed her mom, and we found out that her mother was a narcissist.
Oh boy.
So
Mm.
Tiffany
Mm.
discovered that for the first time 50 years later.
Wow.
So what we did is I did the same thing with Tiffany that I did with Brad. Tell me something positive, even though your mom isn't here anymore. positive about your mom. And she said, again, pushback. Joyce, are you kidding? There's nothing positive.
Hmm.
She put me down. I was ugly. I wasn't the smartest kid like all my friends, blah, blah, blah.
Gotcha.
You know, after she thought, she said, my mom showed my brother and I how important it was to read. As a result of that, I have such an appreciation of the English vocabulary. I have such good knowledge. I was a good student. And she said, I do thank her for that. I said, okay, what lesson did you learn from this? And she said, the lesson is I am definitely confident. I definitely have a lot to offer. I always have. I need to set that negative part of having a narcissistic mother aside. She's not part of my life anymore. And I'm going to concentrate on the fact that I love reading. Now, Tom, I call this forgiveness. Now, some people may say, how do you forgive a narcissistic mother? How do you forgive a boss who you can't, or a friend? For Brad, it was a friend who you never can really have a good conversation with.
Hmm.
When you forgive that
Hmm.
person in your mind and change your mindset, you're forgiving yourself. You're
Hmm.
allowing yourself to find the peace that we're all looking for.
Hmm. Very
Does that make
powerful.
sense to
That's
you?
very powerful. Yes. Yes. So by forgiving the other person, we're giving ourselves the opportunity to find that peace within ourselves. And that allows us to be self potentialized in that situation.
Yes. Yes. And when you think about it in your own life, Tom, in my own,
Yeah.
and our
Mm.
clients or the
Mm.
people watching this show,
Mm-hmm.
how can you do that? How can you do that for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we all know people. They're still blaming their father for pushing them down the stairs when they were 16 years old. And this person is now still 85 and
Mm-hmm.
still so hung up on that lack of forgiveness. You don't forgive the bad behavior. You forgive the fact that I can pull away from that person.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been adding this to my practice, and I have to
Mm-hmm.
admit, the response has been quite overwhelming.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're helping people get in touch with something deep down inside
Yes.
and that part of them that wants to feel appreciated and be loved and they've got to start by loving themselves first.
And I just heard this from one of my
Hmm.
students in Kick Conflict to the Curb, my online course.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, can I give permission? Do I have your permission to use it? Yes. And I'm going to make a graphic and put it on. She
Mm-hmm.
just told me this yesterday. Banging your head against a wall results in a headache.
Hmm.
Let me say that again. Banging
Yeah.
your head against the wall only results in getting a headache.
Hmm.
If your bully won't change, you have to reset your expectations. Huge,
Hmm.
Tom.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't the
Sure.
bully. You got to change what's up here. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we've been talking about with all these case scenarios
Right.
together.
Right. You know, and it's so this is very, very important. I mean, we're on this planet for only a short time,
Mhm.
and I believe we're here to, learn and to grow and certainly help other people in the process. But that process of growing ourselves, that's what you're talking about, where we get rid of the past or get unstuck from the past and move forward with our purpose. And that can only happen when we look at ourselves first and see how we can uh, respect ourselves first, forgive ourselves, and get out there and be able to just be the
Yes.
person we're capable of being, despite the fact that we've got these other bullies or people in our lives that are doing their best to make us feel less than who we are.
Absolutely. This is huge. I couldn't have said it
Hmm.
any better than that,
Hmm.
Mr.
Yeah.
Borg.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's amazing. Yeah, there's so much that can go on with the right uh, conversation that people can have with themselves. And that's what you're good at, Joyce, helping people develop that inner awareness and being able to look inside and resolve some of these concerns and issues and so they can move forward with their life. That's what we're talking about.
that's what we're talking about. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like this bully today, once he's gone or she's gone, we'll never have another bully in our life. No, there'll be others, but we need to know how to deal with
Yes,
those situations as they come up. And now we're better prepared to live our life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Peacefully. That's what everybody wants is
Yeah.
if you have it, you've already figured it out. If you don't, this could be a clue. So listen to
Mm-hmm.
Tom and Joyce on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. What else? We've got another 5 minutes left. What else? Do you have another story for us? Another piece of wisdom for us?
Not story, but it's almost if I'd like to talk about the imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that with Tiffany. And we all experience this. I know you, Joyce Weiss, and Diane Bogino are going to get on a show together because
Yeah.
I know the three of us are talk about this. And the imposter syndrome happens to all of us. There are times in all of our lives when all of a sudden we start self-doubting. Am I good enough? Am I too old? Am I too young? Do I have the right experience? Have I ever done this before? And that cripples us.
Mm,
So what I always do for as a coach is I just have to remind people who are going through the imposter syndrome. And believe me, I go through it myself too. I do the same thing, Tom.
hmm,
Decide, what are you good at? That sounds so basic, but when you're self-doubting yourself, you have to start remembering, hey, I have my degree for me, guidance and counseling. And after that, my self-confidence went just out the door. I don't mean out the door bad. I mean, just up to the ceiling.
mm-hmm,
So we have to remind ourselves, how did we feel when we felt great, when we were assertive and really um, full of confidence? Remember a time when this happened. And then that helps take that negativity, take that um, imposter syndrome and throw it out the window and say,
mm-hmm.
goodbye. I know you're going to come back, but you're not going to last as long as you did the last time. So that to me is one of the last things I would like to encourage people to look it up. Harvard Business Review has tons of articles on the imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And they could even go to my blog, joyceweiss.com, and look up imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find a lot of those articles.
A lot of good wisdom there for sure. All right. Well, Joyce, if our listeners want to get a hold of you, how's the best way to do that? What's the best way to do that?
Well, they could send me an email,
Okay.
joyce@joyceweiss.com,
Mm-hmm.
and they can ask me any question. If they want to have a conversation with me, I will send them my calendar, online calendar, and what do they get on the call? They figure out some challenges they're experiencing. The second part is the gap, where they are, where they
Mm.
want to go. And the last part would be getting some idea of what they have to do to get there.
Okay. That sounds
And
great.
then, if they're ready to increase their self confidence and stop dreading those difficult conversations, like all these clients that we talked about today, Tom,
Mm-hmm.
I suggest that they go to kick conflict to the curb. Do you think there's a little theme here?
Mm.
Kickconflicttothe curb.com for a communication assessment. And you're going to want to get this because you're going to experience more joy at work because the drama will be reduced. You
Mm-hmm.
no longer feel invisible and your input is respected. That's what you're going to learn when you go to kick conflict to the curb and take that assessment.
That sounds fantastic. Now we'll be posting that contact information on the screen so people can see that if only listening to this podcast today.
Okay,
Joyce, I appreciate you. I appreciate you
thanks.
being on our show, and we're going to have you back. You just have way too much wisdom not to be able to share to with our listeners. So
Thank you. I
thank
love.
you
Oh,
for
one last thing. Let
yes.
them connect. Please connect with me. LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, would be a great place. And I know you're going to put that
Yep, we'll put
up
that
on
up on
the,
the screen as well. So
thank
connect with
you.
Joyce on her LinkedIn link and definitely have a conversation with this woman. She is a powerhouse.
Thank you so much. You are such a engaging host. You are one of my favorites. Definitely invite me anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you,
It's,
Joyce.
you're welcome. Thank you, John Board.